Hello, this is Charlie from MMG, and today I'm going to be taking you through input settings in VMIX. So this is where the inputs are in VMIX. Once you've added them and you've started to build out your show, this is where the inputs sit, these little windows here. And yeah, essentially each input has its own settings. And obviously as well, this is how you build layers, create pips. You can do color grading, things like that. So we'll just start off by clicking on the cog here, and I'll do it for this video. So when you click the cog there, it opens up this menu here. And this essentially gives you information about the input and also various things you can do with that input. So what do we have here? So up here is the name of the input, the name there. So you can change this to be whatever you want. So I could change this to be video. Aspect ratio. So you can set a specific aspect ratio, or you can just go by what the source is, and then it will just do the aspect ratio as the source is. You've got mouse click action, preview. So this essentially is saying what happens when you click on the input. It goes to the preview. That's essentially what that's saying there. Go action, quick play. So this is essentially just with the quick play function. So the transition, which obviously we spoke about in another tutorial. So what do you want the go action, which is this one here, to actually do? As you can have it do quick play, you can have it just cut straight to the output, you can put it to the preview, many different options there. So this now tells you the information about the input. So what is the aspect ratio of the input? Widescreen. Resolution, so what's the resolution? The frame rate, and then if there's any deinterlacing or not. Now here is the category. So obviously when we're doing categories, you can go on here, select the category you wish to put that input in. Equally, you can click and drag the input to a category and it will put it in that category as well. Now we've got sharpen, which if I click, you might not see it on here, but it essentially sharpens the image and does image sharpening. We've got mirror, which obviously mirrors it. Flatten layers is an interesting one. Now, I'll probably come back to this setting later on in the tutorial, but there, that's an option. Automatically mix audio. So this essentially, if I tick this, that's what enables this audio mixing for this input here. So I turn that off there. It then turns it off here. Now for videos in particular, these three settings are incredibly useful. So we've got automatically play with transition. So this will make it so that the video automatically plays with a transition as it says. So if I stop this and restart this video and I click cut, it will automatically start playing. Equally, automatically restart with transition. So if it's here, it restarts from the beginning with a transition. Automatically pause after transition. Well, as you can see, that's exactly why it pauses here. And VMIX is intelligent enough to know that you want it to play when it's in your main output and you want it to pause the moment it goes back to the preview window. So incredibly useful for video content. Now you've got the audio settings here, which basically are just essentially a shortcut to the audio settings, which can also be gotten to by pressing the cog for that input on the audio meter. Now you've also got this create virtual input. Now what this will do, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this a whole lot for videos, but particularly for maybe graphics and pips, you might want to use this to get copies. Because that's essentially all it is. It is a copy of this input. So if I click it, I then receive another input that is a copy of that. But you'll notice it doesn't have the video play bar. And that's because it's being sourced from this original input. So if I click go on this, it will make the copy also play at the same time. So that's everything on the general page. Now in color adjust, so this is essentially a white balancing tool. So we can do an auto white balance with this, as you can see. If I maybe pick here, and it only took away one green because obviously I clicked a very, very white spot and the video is already color matched essentially. So it didn't do a whole lot there, but obviously you can tweak this however you want. And yeah, this is essentially what it does. It gives you full control over color matching. You could also up the saturation or even lower it to make it black and white. Now, black stretch, this essentially makes the blacks blacker, and obviously it gets quite extreme at the upper end there. So it's a way of kind of adding contrast. And same with white stretch, you make the whites brighter. Obviously it gets a bit crazy at the end of the spectrum there. But if I wanted to, I could do something like this. And I've effectively increased the contrast of that video. I've also got alpha, which makes it go invisible, essentially, or transparent, that's a better term. So obviously then you can layer things and make them slightly transparent, and yeah, whatever you need it for, really. And you can also change the kind of alpha that it's using as well. Now we can click reset, and that resets all of the color. Yeah, just chop this bit together. Resets all of the color. It resets all the changes to the color that we made here. Now we can also do an auto on the black and white stretch as well to give us the best contrast. Now obviously it thinks that we've got perfect contrast because this video has been made with that in mind, obviously. Now we've got color key here. Now color key is essentially how you do green screening in VMIX. So if you had a camera with a green screen behind it, this is how you would then key out that green. So we'd tick the color key on. Now we'd want to select it. And now just for the purposes of this, I will just select this green, why not? And we can tick the chroma key filter on. And then as we put these parameters up, you can see it keys out green, just like so. Equally, if we wanted to do blue, you could start to get rid of the blues as well. So that's how you would go about using a green screen within VMIX. There is also anti-aliasing, which has a low, medium, and high option. So you can also try and smooth those edges of the person being, well, the person in front of the green screen. And it's also got presets. Typically, when I'm doing chroma keying, I do use these presets, but then I tweak the presets after the fact to make it look better. So just as an example, these are the kind of presets we've got here, but that's obviously chroming out the blue. And then apart from that, we've also got a luma key. Now a luma key, essentially, you can choose an input here to use for the luma key. Now this will work just like this using our VMIX tutorial input, because it's black and then has this pink in the middle. Now the way a luma key works, let's say you have a black and white image, it will preserve everything that is white on the input you're applying the luma key to, but it will cut out everything that is black. So all of this black has been cut out. But as you can see, you can still see the video behind that. And depending on that, what you do here, you can change the strength of the luma key as well. The next tab is color correction. Now, I don't typically use this a lot, but it's a way to effectively lift certain colors. As it says there, you can change your gamma sort of curves and things like that. Gain the colors up. So it's another way of doing, you know, changing the colors essentially of the image. You can also change the hue factor in here as well. So that's quite interesting. Almost looks like autumn or something. And then another saturation knob. So I don't normally utilize this a whole lot. I normally just use the color adjust, but it's there if you want to use it. Now, we can also add various effects in this. So you could actually, in VMIX, add things like LUTs and things like that if you're using certain kinds of cameras, alpha mask, etc., blurs. So there's various things that you can add here, different video effects. I suppose if we just add a bit of this quickly. And as you can see, we're able to blur the image, and we can actually utilize crop on this as well. Now it's being a little slow for me in here because it uses quite a lot of processing power and things, but essentially we're able to crop that, and we can do whatever we want with that blur, put it where we want, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's various different effects within VMIX that you can utilize in the inputs. Now, this is the tab that I'd say I'm on all the time. So the position. Now, position and layers kind of go hand in hand with one another. So in VMIX, you've got 10 different layers on each input, and that's how you can build your pips and looks. Now, each of these layers has got its own position tab, and that's how you layer things over the top. Now, if you click up here, we can basically select any of the layers and see the position on that layer. Now, main is your input. So this would be the video here, as you can see. You can drag it like this to zoom, reset it to back to 1. You can also squish it like this or do this with it as well. And we can just reset like that. Now you've got pan, so this will move it side to side or up and down. There's also a rotate, so you can obviously rotate it as well. You can also do this, which will rotate exactly 90 degrees. Now, we've also got a crop on here, so we can also crop in on all the different dimensions, and then this reset all button will reset all of those parameters back to standard. Now, let's say we want to add a layer. So I'm going to add this VMIX tutorial on here quickly. Now we click edit, and we're now editing the position of that layer. Equally, you can go onto here, let's say we're on main, and you can scroll through the list and it will show you by name what is on that layer right there. Then we can do things like this with it. We could even crop it like this, just so it says tutorial, and the arrow keys also work on this for more fine-tuning adjustment, as you can see here. So you can do a lot of fine-tuning with this. Now, you get a few more options when you're on layers, but not the main. As you can see, we lose all of these parameters down here. So you can also turn the cropping off with the tick box on these layers. You can also turn on border, and we can select a color for our border. Essentially, let's say we pick blue, dark blue. Now, if we write a thickness in there, now it doesn't do it around the text because it classifies the input as a square with alpha. So it's doing it around the actual input. So if I reset this, you would see it's round there. Obviously, take away the crop, and then it goes just like that. Put the crop on, and it goes around your crop. But obviously, let's say that we're building pips. We can actually put some content onto a background and then give it a border, such as maybe a PowerPoint, for example. So that's how you do borders and cropping, and then the positioning as well. And like I say, I'm always coming onto here. This is one thing I'm always using. Now, you can quickly sort of get to the different components here as well. So you can adjust your crop here and your overall X and Y positions here as well in just sort of a quick way. But I prefer to just go to the position as it's much more straightforward. We can also say we want those borders on or off there. Yeah, that's cool. But I much prefer the way of going here, as it just lays it out in a nice, easy to understand way. Now, there are certain presets here as well. So I could click this and it will plonk it right there, and then whatever other input you've got, number 2 for example, would end up going right here. Well, number 1 actually in this case. So if I had the color bars, as you can see, it's gone to that position. Do that, does that one like that, this one like that, and this one like that. So does many different sort of configurations there that you can use. Now, if you want to turn any layers off, you can just hit the check boxes here, and then that disables those layers entirely and you don't see them. That's essentially how this works. You can also zoom in to inspect different bits of the image using that bar there, just in case you want to go in up close for very precise detail. Now we've got triggers here. So this is where you can do your triggers. Now I won't be covering this in today's tutorial, but we'll definitely be covering this in the future in another tutorial. Probably do triggers and shortcuts and things like that. But this is where you'd access triggers for that specific input. Got tally lights. So this is how you'd configure your tally lights. PTZ. Now it's not applicable for this input, but particularly if you've got a PTZ camera, you can actually control that PTZ through this interface. So if you brought the PTZ in over NDI, now what you'd want to make sure you do if you do that, if you go to options, you've got this enable Sony Visca over IP with NDI. So if you enable that like so, now VMIX want to restart. So once that's enabled, if you add a PTZ camera to here, you will be able to essentially control that through VMIX. And I'll actually demonstrate it quickly as we've got a few PTZs knocking about. So I won't do the camera that you can see right now. Do sort of maybe this camera. So this actually shows you a bit of behind the scenes, actually. Fairly interesting. So if I click connect on there, you can now see it's connected, and I can actually control that PTZ just like so. We can change focus. We can say if we want tally, we can change the speed, position speed, just everything like that. Even going fully out wide, just like so. So there's many cool things you can do with that. Obviously, then you control your cameras just through VMIX. Now, if we click this button here, and this is fairly new to VMIX, but we can click this create input at this position. Now, what this will do, so if I actually move this camera now over here, let's say, I now can click this and it will move the camera back to where we created that input. So it actually allows you to have kind of presets within VMIX, and then you can have all of your camera positions as different inputs. And when you click on it, it will take the camera to that position, which is incredibly useful. So that's how you would do PTZ stuff within VMIX. And it's really cool. You can also pair up a controller with this as well. So you can actually have, say, a joystick connected through VMIX to control the camera. But we'll go into that in a later video more around shortcuts. Now we've got the advanced category. Now I've typically never needed to use this. Pretty much everything that you would need is in all of these different tabs here. So I'm not going to go into the advanced today, but the only thing left really is at the bottom here, so copy from. So what does the copy from do essentially? So if I just add another input, we'll do another color bars, for example. Now we'll do the color adjust. We'll do this, sure. Effects, we'll just add like an alpha mask. Do it again. We'll just add a LUT or something. I'm mostly just doing this to demonstrate. Obviously, you wouldn't add a LUT to color bars, but and then we'll go to our layers and we will make this like this and crop it like that. Now, if we go to our number 3 here, I click copy from. Let's do the color adjust key and correction of my number 4. You can then see it actually copies the different parameters of that input onto this one. But as you can see, it's still full screen as such. It's got the crop, but that's about it. And that's because we only did the color adjust key and correction. And so as you can see, it basically copied from our input number 4, the parameters onto our number 3 there. So if you're making pips, and you need to make lots of them, and they're all the same, just with different bits of content, you could essentially just copy the settings of each one to another one to create another one, and then swap in your layers the bit of content that is inside them. Now, I think we're going to be making another tutorial that's more deeper dive into how to make pips and actually make looks. But essentially, this is all of the input settings here. And that's about it really for inputs. I'll now just talk about the actual, what we see on here. Now, we talked about this in our main UI video, but I'm just going to reiterate it here as we were talking all about inputs. So obviously the number here corresponds to the input number. So that's how you know what you're busing where. So to the different outputs, obviously to 4, I could bus 2, which is that video, for example. So yeah, the number corresponds to that input. Now at the top, we've got the X. So if I click that, it basically is saying, do we want to close the input? So I could close this, for example, and then that input's now gone. Now, just so you know, that prompt about closing the inputs, that is a setting that you can enable in here, display confirmation for input close button. So without that checked, we just go do that now. I can click this and it just disappears. So I like the safety net overall of having a prompt to say, did you mean to close this input? Because what if you accidentally close something that you needed and you don't realize? And that can obviously get quite bad. So I like to have the confirmation for that. The bottom here, these are our different overlay channels, so 1 through 8. So essentially how this works is when we click this, it will overlay the input that you're selecting that on onto the main output on that channel. So number 1 overlays to the main out on overlay channel 1. And the same thing will happen if you do overlay channel 8 as well. Now let's say I do 1 there. As you can see, it works like layers. So 8 is right at the front, 1 is right at the back. So now if I take that away, we see that on there like so. And then equally, if we do it like this, it goes over the top. Now, obviously, we've got the go button, which is, as it highlights there when I hover over it, quick play. So that plays it quickly into the output. Now, that's not like a cut, so it will not go back. If you click cut, same thing, it will cut directly to the output. The only way to put it back to the preview from the main out is to do this. Obviously, you can click that, but then you've still got it in your main out. This button here, so this is how to loop an input. So this is basically saying we will loop this video. So if I go to the end of this here, it should then loop and start again from the beginning, just like so. Now, this button here is quite cool. So this actually gives you a bigger version of the input on the screen. So you can basically have a much closer look at the input and the detail. To get rid of that, you just click anywhere on the input on the screen and it recollapses back to small. This audio button here is audio on or off, and it's, as you can see, is the same button as this one here, just on the actual input instead. Now for videos, you can click the pause button or the play button from there as well to quickly play the video or pause it. And yeah, that's all the controls for this. Now with videos, we also have show, hide, playback, speed. And I got to that by right clicking on that video. And by doing this, we can essentially speed up the video, or even if we want to, slow it all the way down. So it is incredibly slow. or we can put it to 70%. So whatever you need it to be. And then right click again, click that, and then it hides it. Now you won't get that on the other inputs, but there'll be various other things. So on titles, you've got this title editor and a reload button. And quite typically on camera inputs as well. So if we added a camera, we can actually right click it and click reset, and that will just reset it. So maybe the feed isn't coming through because you've done some unplugging, replugging. You might need to just click reset because it's VMIX holding on to the various settings of that input where they've changed basically. Now for NDI, so if I add an NDI input, so we'll just add one of our sort of VMIX NDI inputs, I guess, or we'll add this camera. So obviously this is a camera that you can see. Now with NDI, you've also got the option when you right click, it actually comes up with all of the available NDI sources on the network. And you can actually click on these by clicking that there and then swap the NDI source to a different source. Now you can also, as you can see, put it in low bandwidth mode, which will essentially, as it says, it will make it lower bandwidth, but it will also reduce the quality of that NDI source as well. You can also make it an audio only NDI. So you don't need the video, you just need the audio. You can do that. And you can check them back off just by going back in there like that. Now you can also click this configure source. So when you've got things like this PTZ camera, often they have their own user interface for configuring the actual camera settings. So you can actually quickly access that through VMIX by clicking configure source, and that will then take you to the web page to actually configure that camera. Now there are various types of inputs in VMIX. So I think we covered web browsers last time. So if I click on this here, now obviously with browsers into VMIX, there's various different options. We've got mouse enabled on there, which means that if I go on here, I can actually control what is in this preview window from the browser input. Now we can enable mouse keyboard, we can go back, go forward, reload page, and there's a properties as well, which basically tells you what link it is and if you want to update it. So that's web browsers. Now, there are various other settings as well for other different input types. I don't think I'm going to go into many of the other ones in this video. Now, I went through a lot of these in our input and how to add inputs video, and I went into how to add all of these inputs and the general sort of unique configurations you can do with each input. But I think for now, that is everything about the input settings, and stay tuned because we'll be utilizing this a lot more going forward when we have tutorials about making looks, pips, and actually programming a show. And yeah, you'll see all of this stuff in action and how to actually use it and apply it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure to visit our website at mmgaxis.io, where you can find all of our latest content, everything there is to know about our products, all relating to live events, audio and video. Links to all of our socials will be on there as well, including our YouTube, where you can find more tutorials such as this one, tutorials for our products and NDI tools as well. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon.